The Sydney Football Stadium, and for the second time in the series, a sellout crowd of 40,000 for what has turned out to be the contest decider. The amphitheatre awaits the gladiators, and so too the masses. To a man, the Australians could not believe the crowd support here 2 weeks ago. Perhaps there'll be even more here today. Hello and welcome. Australia by 30 points to 12 in the first test. The Lions bouncing back by 19 to 12 in the second. Who will it be this time? Australia striving also for their first ever series win against the British Lions. With me in commentary, Chris Handy and Gary Pearce. Chris, another great occasion. How do you see it?
Gordon, if the game's a fight, Australia just don't have the hitman. If they play rugby, then they're better prepared. In Brisbane, their commitment, Australia, had a use-by date. Today, the urgency must be there right from the outset. By any standards, this isn't the greatest Lions team. Australia are better rugby players and, in my opinion, will win. Gary Pearce.
Australia has gained a reputation worldwide in the rugby circles as being tenacious for loose play and uninhibited in its approach towards second phase play and also counter-attack. Today, the success of the Australian team really stems behind how the tight five can get up on that Lions tight five and beat them up front.
So conditions here absolutely ideal for football. It's an overcast day. And in naming an unchanged lineup, the Australian selectors are prepared to forgive and focus on the merit of the first test win. Fullback Greg Martin has emerged proudly in the last line, but David Campese, the match winner, hasn't struck form. Today could just be it. Halves Liner and Farr Jones are together for the 25th time in a test. In the pack, Campbell and Cutler must be given more line-out protection, and props Harthill and Crowley are ready for that task. Tommy Lawton plays his 41st test. The Lions too are unchanged from Brisbane. Fullback Gavin Hastings produced a memorable try to sink Australia after receiving from younger brother Scott. Jeremy Guscott underlined his exciting potential in the centre, while Rob Andrew provided solidity and direction at 5'8". There were no better forwards on the field at Ballymore than back rowers Richards and Teague. Given latitude, they are simply devastating. But the path was cleared by the 5 abrasive tight forwards, with the 2 policemen, Dooley and Ackford, taking no prisoners last Saturday. So the playing surface, firm and fast. Absolutely ideal, and all is just about in readiness for this third and deciding international between Australia and the Lions. As in the first test, it really is a very heady atmosphere, and I know we have 2 very excited commentators alongside in Gary Pearce and Chris Handy. Firstly, Gary, how do you think the Australians are going to play it this afternoon?
Well, I think Australia's got to go back to the last game they played here, and that was really getting behind that style that really typifies what Australian rugby's about, and that's being able to uncompromisingly take opposition teams up front, being able to move the ball wide.
And now the moment the crowd's been waiting for. Nick Farr Jones leads Australia in his 11th straight test match. It was do or die for the Lions at Ballymore. That now applies to this Australian team. Australia closely followed by the very popular Lion skipper Finlay Calder. And the Lions not receiving the same generous response from this capacity crowd. Finlay Calder has been under an injury cloud. He apparently strained his hamstring muscle during the week, and he hasn't been able to train full bore, but he assures us he's quite okay and just about 100%. Rival skipper Nick Farr Jones leading this Australian side this afternoon, and he's promised that the Australians will give their all. And there's this spectacular sight. The most striking feature of the stadium is that unique continuous encircling roof, which rises and falls to generate a spectacular saddle shape. And our commentary position away to the left on the top, and we're about 30-odd metres, nearly 100 feet above the playing surface, which incidentally is set 3 metres below ground level to create an internal bowl effect. So now the 2 sides will be introduced to the Governor of New South Wales, Rear Admiral Sir David Martin. But looking at the 2 sides, Chris Handy, it's an understatement to say they're both very tense, but it really is a great occasion here.
To date, the Lions haven't been able to join their forwards and their backs together. Their back row has operated as extra tight forwards, not as that link between a surging back line and a forceful forward pack. But Australia need to go forward. Gary Pearce had said it earlier, and that's today is their simple and sole purpose. If so, we will see the re-emergence of Jeff Miller to the form that he showed in the first test here. He was almost non-existent in Brisbane because the game was not played at his level.
So Sir David Martin, and behind him, away to the left there, is Joe French, the president of the Australian Rugby Football Union, and Bob Fordham, the executive director. And David Young, who's probably been the most photographed man in Australia over the past week, the villain of the piece at Ballymore, and he was censured for his incident, his raking of the head of Steve Cutler by the Lions management. And also a big moment for the referee this afternoon, Rene Urquet, as Greg Campbell so nicely put it. The Australians are the Christians, and they'll be taking on the Lions, and Rene Urquet is Caesar. Andy Conway, the Australian manager, and this Australian team with a total of 289 test match caps, the Lions 297, and just a statistic on the scrum, Australia 827 kilograms to the Lions 831, so not a lot in it, Chris.
Sure, the weight doesn't make so much difference, but there are some big men out there. And when we talk about stacking on a bit of a stoush, you're looking at these days the likes of Dan Crowley, who's 5'9", trying to blue, or the thought of him trying to blue with Wade Durley and Ackford at 6'8" is a little bit ludicrous. They really have to come down to ground level. So truly, I don't see the fisticuff stuff that's been beaten up in the press as really being part of it. It'll be hard, there's no doubt about that, but it'll also be a great contest.
And of course, there are 21 players in any squad. These are the reserves: Tim Gavin, Arthur Nagila, there's young Tim Horan, Mark McBain, a great soldier for Australian rugby, and Lee Donnellan from ACT, and last but not least, Peter Slattery, and one of the heroes behind the scenes there, Greg Craig, the Australian physiotherapist, and two Australian coaches, Bob Dwyer and Bob Templeton. Yes, Sir David Martin, a great supporter of naval rugby, and Dr. John Moulton, the Australian doctor. So now we stand by for the national anthems as the Governor makes his way back to his seat. And it's with the Naval Support Command Band, conducted by Lieutenant Anthony Younglove. So the reserves also making their way back to the stand. It won't be long now. Australian captain Nick Farr-Jones, the only player to wear his tracksuit pants out on the field. He wipes the tears from his eyes, and the stage is now set. So the Lions won the second test, and Australia lost the brawl up there too by 25 stitches to nil. Nick Farr-Jones, one of the people on the receiving end, with a double cut to his lip. But what a splendid occasion. Absolutely stunning here at the Sydney Football Stadium. And Australia will be running from our right. Now the breeze, because of the saddle shape of the roof, is deflected upwards, so it doesn't seem as though it will play a great part, although there is quite a strong southerly prevailing here at the moment. Tommy Lawton, he's come a long way since he's under 12 days as a halfback. And before there, Steve Cutler, Australia's most capped second row. And the Lions mascot poised beautifully on the halfway line. Lovely position for the action. French referee Rene Urquet is again in charge, while his countrymen and women recover from Bastille Day. He'll control a different battle, but the liberty, equality and fraternity of the 30 players will most assuredly be dictated by his whistle. The third Mitre 10 test match is underway here at the football stadium, and a crunch of players, and Calder has the ball early on for the Lions. Australia has worked hard on those kickoffs, but the Lions have come away. The referee says it was out, and the Australians drive in low. The early psychological battle goes against the Lions. The referee has penalised. And that really is a very good blow for the Australians.
A very good body height by the Australian pack there. They were getting pushed back, and as it came to one side, they got down low and drove ahead and caught the Lions offside.
Michael Liner doesn't find touch. Jones is going to run it back and hoist. His kick is not a very good one, though. Coming down near the 10-metre line. Lost ahead by Richards, and there's also offside play, says the referee.
Paul Ackford, the one in front of Richards. It came off both sets of hands. Australia, then the Lions. Watch it in the air. It's a poor kick by Jones. He could have used his 22-metre area. There it comes down off Cutler, then off Richards, and then Ackford, who's in front, is offside.
So there's the distance for Michael Liner. It's about 45 metres. He's also 20 off centre. And we've had just 1.5 minutes of play. Virtually only the kick-off and then the ensuing penalty kick. And Liner with a chance to post first points. He kicked 3 out of 6 last week, but was quite happy with his kicking because he struck the ball well, including one that hit the post. Two minutes gone on the clock. Michael Liner for Australia. Missing on the left. So a let off there for the Lions.
Good, and a feature that does disturb me is that again from the kick-off, Australia was soft. We saw it in the kick-off to the game. The Lions retrieved rather easily. This is a critical point. They must receive here.
Well, a very good dropout by Rob Andrew. The Australians get their body height down. Far Jones goes in for the tackle. So 2 kickoffs, and the Lions gaining possession, although they did concede a penalty with the opening one. Full marks to Rob Andrew because he's putting that ball so beautifully for his forwards to get underneath and take the initiative. The Australians have had opposed scrumming during the week from local club players in Sydney. Jones wants it, and so too Andrew. And that's a very good settler for the Lions. They've survived the first 4 minutes of play and no score on the board.
Super first scrum for the Lions. Locked down tight. Not 1 inch of movement. Australia not given the opportunity to put on that inspiring shove. Locked down tight, cleared beautifully.
Loose ball here for Jones. There's the ball for Australia. Liner, cut out to Walker. Australia looking for this second phase possession. An area that let them down last week.
Some superb blocking in there by the Australian props. They got through, deflected the ball as it came down from the Lions' tack, over the top of the ball, and very quick ball wide for the Australian backs. That's the formula. Move the ball away from the forwards, the Lions forwards.
Nick Farr-Jones just got his kick in. This is Gavin Hastings. And a towering reply, not finding touch. The Australians clear it, but Martin's in trouble. The Lions up very quickly. Fullback Gavin Hastings is down after that confrontation. Andrew. Campese races back. Campese into touch. Campese trying to keep the ball in play, but the touch judge on this side, David Bishop, says that he put a foot into touch whilst in possession.
Dreadful place to try and kick the ball in touch. David Campese with his back to the Lions coming forward. But that time they read Australia's play. The kick downfield, and they came forward in the centre, anticipating the counter-attack wide from Australia, and they really snuffed it out.
Gavin Hastings receiving a blow early on. He's just had treatment from the trainer. And Brian Moore doing plenty of talking here. He's sporting a bloodied nose. His first taste of international football was for the English students against Fiji in 1982.
Lions here will be looking for a deflected ball down to the superb sweeping.
Ackford at the front. Richards doesn't control. This is Teague. Scrum feed for Australia. The two packs shut together.
Well, only minutes apart. We've seen the first 2 scrums of the game. This one now Australia's chance to show that they can retain their feet.
And again, the 2 halfbacks are in it, but no one really joining in this time from the Lions side, to their credit. Finlay Calder holding his players back. Jones and Farr-Jones. No love lost between those two after an incident in the second test. and the penalty has been changed. Well, that is a critical blow for the Lions. We saw David Soul give away a penalty by use of the elbow in the first test, and that really turned them on their heels.
Well, what's happened there is, again, a controlled aggression by the Australian team. But again, the Lions taking the cheap shot, getting penalised. You can see here the scrum's gone down, penalty is gone to the Lions. But as we come through here, scuffling and a headbutt in there by Jones.
Nick Farr-Jones throwing the ball away, and that's what upset Robert Jones. Farr-Jones clears. Michael Liner and Ian Evans, the man from Llanelli. And that one landing just inside the line.
Definitely in that one, Nick Farr-Jones motioning upfield, but it was a cheap shot, Nick. Good try. This one dropping in touch. I'll be doubtful if it proves me wrong. Very close. On the line, don't forget, he's out.
Yes, I think that's what Nick Farr-Jones was complaining to the touch judge about. Hairline decision. Strong drive from David Soul. Great commitment from both forward packs.
This is where Australia struggled last week. The ensuing ruck or maul from the push down from the line out. They're showing now they're not going to take a backward step, and that is a good sign.
Referee ruling the ball was lost forward by the Lions.
The Lions forwards have incredible explosion with the ball from that tap down the line out. They really explode onto it. And they get that couple of metres shove, gives them the momentum.
Australian scrum is ruled the 90. Richards comes away. That's a tight head. Psychological blow there for the Lions pack, and they're very hungry. Jones sniping himself. 15 metres out. This is Ackford. Richards there. So too is Calder. Australia under heavy pressure here. Rob Andrew. Australia short on numbers. Evans. And the referee has awarded the penalty right in front of the goalposts. Rob Andrew down on his back. Australia caught offside.
We talked last week about the corridor of darkness outside Farr-Jones and inside Lloyd Walker. It was Jones there, the Englishman, that exploited that area, and it was a good forward pack which followed up to force the error.
It's that power being pushed through the middle of the Australian pack, causing the back rowers and loose forwards to be able to come around the edges and watching. In that case, Scott Goulet getting caught on the side there, trying to put that pressure onto Jones, but offside.
The Lions scrum in the second test showed signs of splitting Australia without doing it. But they gained a tight head, a crucial one, and Hastings has added the three-pointer. So it's the British Lions first on the scoreboard. 9 minutes of play gone first half.
Well, Lions playing a game plan. Get the tight five to get over that advantage line and then use this very, very aggressive and powerful back row. We saw Teague and Richards there really pushing the play upfield.
So the Australian scrum really needing to get it together in that tight five. Liner with the restarts. The Lions by 3 points to 0. Jones to Andrew. 35 metres out from the Lions goal line.
Short five-man line out. This is where Australia got into trouble last week, pushing down and losing the ball afterwards.
Jones was caught by Campbell, but Richards there to save the day. Dooley and Ackford rug it back. And the referee is spotting a knock forward there by the Lions, but a very good hit there by Big Bill Campbell on the halfback Jones. Lions feed. Hill and David Young on this side. Jones kicking back there for Martin. And that's not a bad reply under pressure. The Australians are all onside because Andrew mishandled. And he doesn't find touch. This is Tyneman and Campese. Campese's going to use his right foot. Hastings back there. Here comes Williams. Hastings counters. Big strong man. Try scorer at Ballymore. Jones to Andrew. Campese racing back for it. In good position this time. Ian Evans through with Guscott. And a long raking kick by Campese. Andrew only 5 metres out. Hastings with the angle. And a kick finding touch just 12 metres from halfway.
Well, your kicks are only as good as your chases there, and I think Australia has to give more pressure up on those particular kicks. Not enough players up there. Lions trying to pass the ball in to get a greater angle at the touchline. Once the ball's passed, those players can play on.
Lions winning the early rucks and mauls by 3-1. Penalties 3-2 Australia. Lineouts 2-1 Australia. Goulet at the back. Campbell. Crowley mishandled. Guscott. And the Lions losing ahead.
there is that early nervousness there. You can see on three occasions the Australian tight forwards in sweeping have grabbing at the ball and mishandling, and it's costing them dearly.
They're playing too shallow, Chris. They're not coming in depth, playing across the field, trying to tuck the ball in rather than bursting onto it.
Again, the scrum collapses, and the referee penalising the Australian front row. Mark Harthill.
Interesting decision that from the referee from the far side of a scrum to indicate whether there's pulling down. Often they use the touch judge on this side of the field, who simply intimates by an elbow lifted as to whether which side was at fault.
Lions controlling the pace of the game right now. Australia not being able to get enough power up front and doing a lot of watching rather than trying to change the pace of it.
Again, the Lions very hungry. That's Teague. Caught by Lawton. Andrew, cut out now to Hastings. That's Scott to his brother Gavin. Underwood follows. Williams Underwood. And Campese back there. And Campese losing the ball ahead, right on the Australian goal line.
You see here, the ball's gone wide. The backs here, the Lions wanting to spin it wide. Hastings hits the line, but watch Martin come up and take him out. Superb play by the Australian fullback.
Big test here for the Australian scrum. The Lions call for the second shove. Jones, and the referee this time says that David Young at fault. The tight head. Back you go.
Releasing the pressure, that's what he's saying. Pulling down, it's rather easy. I don't think Mr. Okay just appreciates just how difficult it is. And there's no reason for David Young in that situation to take that scrum to ground at all. They'd already won the ball.
Well, what a kick by Liner. The Lions taking the line out quickly, as they're entitled to. Mark Harthill not gathering, and quick thinking there by Hastings.
Again, Australia needing to chase the kicks. Just not putting enough pressure on. They just cannot go at any part of the game and relieve the pressure. The slightest loss of pressure, the Lions are back into it, controlling the pace of the game.
14 minutes gone first half. The Lions through a penalty goal by Gavin Hastings, ahead by 3-0. Now it's Liner to Walker. Williams is in. Ian Williams. Great tackle there by Guscott. Well, there was a knock on a couple of ways. Referee's playing advantage though for the Lions. Jones through on Campese. And he got the mark under heavy pressure.
Mistake-free rugby for the Lions. The ball is going to hand every time, and they're continuing to mount this barrage of pressure.
Campese not finding his touch. Gavin Hastings back over halfway. Goulet in front. That kick's gone a bit too deep. Liner with a bit of time here. Off the side of his boot. Jones, and again, not too many Australian chasers. This is Rob Andrew. Pass was okay. Scott Hastings. Down the field he goes. Big kick. And the bounce is good too. Well, Australia are playing on quickly. Again, the ball swung across the field. This is Andrew. Nick Farr-Jones there. Lions players are all onside once it's mishandled. And again, some ironic applause from the crowd because finally we found touch.
What a crackerjack pace this game is. There's some very, very tired Australian and also Lions forwards out there. But not only are the Lions creating pressure for Australia, Australia, by not getting their kicks out on the full, are pulling pressure down on top of themselves as well. And that kick by Nick Farr-Jones would be much appreciated.
Cutler. And the referee there penalising Australia.
Dan Crowley is pointing out for coming across the line. Just watch Crowley at 3 in that crouch position. Certainly not coming across the line. The ball is in the air. He's on the other side now. Was definitely not at fault at any stage there, if he is the man pointed out.
So Martin now. The Lions not finding their touch. Gavin Hastings. Miller's up quickly. The Lions players are onside. And Liner cleverly now across the field. Great kick.
And you'll see that time the Lions' backs closed up. They thought Australia were going to counter-attack by running it. They came up too flat and Liner tucked the ball in behind him. Good thinking. Maybe this will get the green and golds onto the front foot. They're in strife at the moment. They're coming from all angles. They need to settle and take it on steadily.
Farr-Jones does well to Liner and Walker. Walker straightens back to Miller. Better set up, but he's driven back in the tackle. Farr-Jones and he knocked the ball on.
Again, the pressure coming back onto Far Jones. The pack not getting over the top of the ball, cleaning out the Lions, making sure that the Lions' backs are going backwards at the time when they attack. But second phase needs more thrust.
This is Hastings on his left boot. And a very solid-looking punt kick taking place within 2 metres of the halfway line. So the penalty goal to Gavin Hastings coming after only 9 minutes, the only score in the game.
Perfect chance to look at this line out. Who comes across the line? Lions or Australia?
Well, Paul Ackworth came straight across, but this is Calder, taken low by Goulet. Teague met solidly. The Lions kick there. Williams took it well. Far Jones supports and into touch. Well done, Ian Williams. The Lions had 3 backs on 2 Australians there, and one of them was a second rower. But the first quarter of the game definitely with the Lions pack. Ackford doing well. And another penalty here to the Lions. And the referee penalising Australia for deliberately barging across the line of touch.
Well, again, he's pointing out Dan Crowley, and something will have to be done by Dan Crowley. He packs in that crouched over style, and as in the first test, the referee disliked the way that he came across the line. He must stand up, face the play, and not go across the line if that's to continue to be a problem.
So, understandably, worried looks in the Australian camp, and an area that Australia has been found wanting, according to the referee, but certainly it's occurring on both sides, no doubt about that. Hastings now with a chance to see the Lions slip 6 points clear. Just inside, 2 penalty goals to the Scot, Gavin Hastings. That one coming after 21 minutes of the first half.
Australia at this stage is looking for its counter-attacking ability to try and take this game up. It must get right back to basics. If you haven't got the ball, you can't score tries. So it's important that Australia becomes more aggressive, especially in that line-out area. Crowley trying to get the ball in there, trying to block well. He must look like he's going for the ball.
Territory with the Lions in the first quarter, 60%. And Roger Utley and Ian McGeechan certainly pleased with this start by their team. Jones weaves through, caught by Cutler, but look at those lines forwards, as one.
Critical thing from this is that ball for Australia was on the Lions side of the advantage line, but because of their commitment to the forwards, they're able to just drive it that extra couple of feet, which gives them the put into the scrum.
Jones kicking deep for Martin. And his kick looks as though it's out on the full. So Jones's tactics, kicking high for the touchline, but keeping the ball just inside, proving successful. Line-outs 5 apiece.
What should be noted here is how number 1 and number 3 for the Lions get in there and block, stopping Australia from getting through.
Sol straight through the middle of the line-out, caught by Far Jones. Great charge from the prop. Australia regroup. The Lions go ahead. Guscott. Kick charge down. Play on. Australia come away now through Walker and Far Jones. And this is Martin, the fullback, looking for support. Lions player playing the ball on the ground. Referee right on the spot.
If you're part of the tackle, you can't play at the ball on the ground until you've regained your feet. Teague that time was involved in the tackle. Good work by Lloyd Walker. Brought the ball to the far side where the opening was. But here's Teague arriving on the scene, part of the tackle. He must regain his feet before he plays at that ball. Doesn't, and the referee's on the spot.
So the penalties shared after 23 minutes of play, first half. But the Lions through 2 penalty goals by Hastings, ahead 6-0. Ackford out jumping, Bill Campbell. Gay and Evans again coming through. Martin. And a knock on both ways. First one by Australia.
Good tactic this by the Lions, keeping the ball down the lines and totally under control in front of their forward pack. They don't want to stretch it wide until they get the perfect ball. Again, Jones comes short.
This is Richards. Teague is there, pulling the ball in, and the ball's still in play. Cut out pass now for Scott Hastings. Gets away from Liner, but he's met by a solid wall of gold jerseys. Richards cleared, and the referee spotting a forward pass.
Well, again, we see that Scott Hastings jinking in the back line. Obviously, the plan is to come back and link with the forwards.
Young penalised again.
He must
Well, he's gone across onto the loose head side. Farr Jones plays on quickly. The Lions were all inside the 10, and the referee gives another penalty to Australia, this one on halfway. Clever play there by the Australian captain. Once you're inside that 10, you have to retire, and if you play the man, if he takes a quick tap, you're immediately in an offside situation. Liner's going to have a shot for goal. This will be a prodigious kick if successful, because he's allowing for the angle about 53 metres out. Nick Farr Jones looks as though he's lost his contact lenses. Both he and Ian Williams play in contact lenses. But he seems happier with the situation. Well, Williams would be in trouble if he lost his, because he's as blind as a bat. Liner's got the distance, and he's got the accuracy too. Majestic kick from Liner, sorely needed by this Australian team.
And maybe that's the lift that this Australian team needed and are looking for, because they're not really making positive steps at the moment. They haven't seized this game by any stretch of the imagination. Now's their chance, but they're receiving from the kick-off, and I'm sure the Lions will kick short again. They've been able to regain possession in this area almost at will on tour. Let's see how they do it this time.
Ackford coming through with Richards. Well won by Cutler. Liner in trouble and stepped out of it nicely. Very composed play there from the Australian 5'8", has called the steam through on him.
Good work by Australia to get out of this, but Calder put great pressure on Liner and nearly nailed him.
Norwich ball! Norwich ball!
Norwich ball, the call. Miller through. Good tackle on Sol. Jones hoists. Underwood through on Martin. And the mark is paid. Again, bravery under fire from Big Greg Martin.
We can see here, you can see these Lions forwards still running onto the ball. Superb play by Jones to put pressure on Martin. So far in this game, the Lions forwards have not had to go back once. They've really got this momentum rolling forward. It's been from intelligent play from Jones. And then when the ball comes a bit free, the Lions have been willing to run the ball.
Finley Calder and Jeff Miller at the back. Tyneman and Richards opposed. And Goulet and Michael Teague. Well taken there by Calder. Richards again in support. Andrew, half volley. Kicking for the far touch. Martin on his chest. Jones. And this is Gavin Hastings. The Australians are onside. Hastings gets away. Clever overhead pass. Andrew now. And very good organisation at the back from the British Lions.
Great work, Rob Andrew. Put in the initial kick on the far side. Went drop back centre field to retrieve the situation. Very useful footballer.
Australia having problems in there with the tight forwards of the Lions getting through interfering, so they're going to have to go to these shorter lineouts.
Teague over the back. Steaming ahead by 10 metres. Jones and Farr Jones. Good tackle. Overlap. Underwood and Williams. Ball lost backwards, says the referee. Hastings. And now it's lost ahead by Scott Hastings.
Well, Hastings definitely too hasty that time in unloading the ball. There was 2-on-1. The pass went too early and it allowed the Australians to cover. Watch it out here. Hastings shifted that on too quickly. If he'd have drawn the tackle from Williams, there was wide open spaces.
3 points in it, and we're 11 minutes before half-time. The scrum wheels round past the 90 degrees. Scott Goulet, number 6, on this side for Australia. Well, the front rows have been going to ground. virtually in every second scrum. Referee is penalised at least 4 times in that area already. Penalty 7-5. Paddle away to Andrew. Field goal attempt. It must be close. Just sailing away on the right-hand side. This is Campese. He's going to take on Evans. Campese into space here. Steps beautifully. Taking play outside the 22. Liner now has it for Australia. The forwards arrive. Can they slip it back? Far Jones raking the ball over his shoulder, but Hastings again in perfect position. Here's Campese again. The Lions a bit slow to follow this one. And a long spiral torpedo punt kick. 3 metres from the halfway line.
Well, David Campese, you really don't know what he's going to do. It's a bit of a problem when you're playing in the same team with him, but the crowd certainly came to a stand there when he got hold of the ball. But quite correctly, when the ball did come back to him, when he didn't have the support there, he found touch.
The Lions enjoying a near 2-1 ratio now in the lineouts. 9 minutes before half-time. 3 points the difference on the scoreboard. Jones in trouble. Near the 10-metre line. But there was a knock forward there. And Australia's scrum feed. Better scrum for Australia. Liner now to Walker. Here's Williams, almost through. Tyneman supports. Desperate tackling from the Lions. Here it comes again. There's a chance here for Australia. Martin's in. Pass was not a good one to Campese. It was forward. Greg Martin holds his head. He realises Australia must take their opportunities.
All the preparation was done by the forwards as they drove over. The ball came wide, but Australia too shallow. Way too shallow. Martin looks to pass to Campese, but he should have been in a position to burst onto it.
This is Hastings, almost charged down by Liner. It's a very good kick to the centre of the field. Little knock on there by Rob Andrew as it was tapped down by Jeremy Guscott.
Well, quite interesting here. The ball went to Hastings to the sideline and a big Gary Owen up into the middle of the field. The Lions starting to play with arrogance, being able to try to move the ball out wide, where they're starting to get to second phase a bit faster than Australia.
Here's Far Jones and Williams. Now it's Campese into trouble. Australia in bother here. Underwood slips it back. The ball was loose. Ackford now, supported by Dooley. This is T to Jones. Andrew, Hastings. Guscott there. Guscott almost through. Great tackle. The Australians slow to that breakdown. This is David Soul, very mobile player. Here they go again. And Rob Andrew just pumping the touchline. Very good build-up there by the Lions.
Well, they're kicking the ball to plunge on, the Lions. Working the ball upfield by the kick, really putting pressure on, and then picking the one that they're going to use. Guscott straightened, and he was very nearly through. The desperate tackle by Dominic Maguire just pulled him to ground. But a little bit rattled and a little bit tired. The Australian forwards arriving late.
Well, they say the touring side is always fitter. And the Lions are full of running at the moment. Sol, straight through the centre of the line out, tries to stay on his feet. Ball laid back well, and Australia clearly offside. Players fringing, coming round offside. And this will be a penalty shot for Hastings, only 5 metres in.
Well, what an amazing part of play there. You saw the ball was deflected twice in that line-up, but the Lions were able to get out into depth and drive through the middle, get over that advantage line, thus giving the momentum behind it. As they were going for the try line there, Australia, all they had to do was try and hold on, and they did. And gave the penalty away.
David Young now in the foreground, in the hands of the trainer, just holding his back. Not surprised he's got a sore back after all those scrum collapses. And that's Paul Ackford. So 5.5 minutes remaining before half-time. If Hastings is successful, a 6-point lead for the Lions. And that would certainly be a measure of their superiority in the first half. Gavin Hastings. It's a big, lovely kick. Straight through the centre. Big is beautiful for Gavin. He broke the world record when he scored 27 points against Romania in the World Cup. And he is a prolific scorer, right on target here today with 3 straight penalties. Australia has always been behind in this game, coming towards half-time. Hastings on his left foot. And he's really been at the peak of his powers this afternoon. And there's Mike Griffiths, the Bridge End builder. former junior soccer player in Wales. So David Young with the sore back. Lee Campbell doing well for Australia. Far Jones now to Liner. Gary Owen. One of the few points of pressure Australia's been able to apply. Maguire is there. Great take by Hastings. Australia drive it in. But the Lions forwards have regrouped splendidly. Now they're going to work it to Andrew. And he's touched just outside the 22.
Sign of class, that one. The high ball perfectly placed, under pressure in centre field. But the Lions forwards regrouping and the drive being put on. Even if the ball hadn't have been won, they would have got the put into the ensuing scrum. That's big stuff.
Campbell at the back to Far Jones. Now it's Crowley, taken low by Sol. Crowley does well. Far Jones. Numbers here for Australia, Martin and Campese. Play on, says the referee, almost a try. Who can fall on it? No one. Well, desperation there for the Lions. That was the one Australia was looking for, and they'll have the scrum feed.
The Hail Mary pass of David Campese going astray.
Big scrum from the Lions. They've shunted Australia back off the ball. Second tight head. And Far Jones is caught offside. Well, that's a turning point in the game. It wouldn't be surprising.
What great control the Lions have got. They've been under pressure for the last 2 or 3 minutes. Under a high ball, they regrouped into a scrum that was probably had to be the most important scrum of the match for Australia, and came back and really shoved Australia backwards.
Yes, the alarm bells are ringing for the Australian side. The Lions also shunted Australia back in an attacking position in the second test. The ball was lost ahead there by Ackford, and it's been spotted by the referee. Well, just before half-time it was at Ballymore. Australia was pushed back and the ball was spoilt.
Regroup they must do, and I believe this team has that ability to regroup. This is an important scrum. Another setback here could create some problems. Just before half-time, the time to pull it out is here.
Now it's Liner. Liner through! Williams outside, can he get there? He sure can! Great try! Chris Handy's a fortune teller. Australia to within 2 points, and that's the first try of the game.
Again, the magician to the fore, Michael Liner. They waited back for the push wide. He saw the opportunity. Andrew held off. Centre field, they were all at sea, the Lions. And the speedster, Ian Williams, home from the UK, now driving a little nail in of his own.
The whole objective here was to try and move the Lions' defence across field, and so they did. But Liner's incredible step into the gap there to swing it across to the pace of Williams was really the thing that got in behind the Lions. What a great try. It sets Australia well on a good track for the second half.
So Ian Williams scoring his 7th Test match try in only his 9th international. His 30th try in an Australian jumper. And what a critical one it was for the ailing Australian team. The prospect now of being all square at half-time with just 30 seconds remaining. Michael Liner. Flags are up. And the test match is all square. Seconds before the break. Well, this was superb work by the Australian 5/8. The break and the timing of the pass was magnificent.
I think the dummy scissors there, Maguire coming back inside, really fooled the Lions, and it left Liner with only one option, and that's to go on his own and feed his outside support.
So, the ground really humming here. We're going to see the restart from Andrew. The siren has gone for half-time. Australia and the Lions, 9-all. Michael Liner from inside his 22. And now referee René Urquet blows his whistle for the break. And what a tingling situation we have here at the football stadium. Running through the scorers in the first half. Ian Williams, 38.5 minutes of that term. The only try of the match converted by Liner, who also kicked a penalty goal after 25 minutes. And Gavin Hastings converting the forward pressure with 3 penalty goals in the 9th, 20th and 35th minutes, making up the Lions 9 points. Looking at the statistics of the first half, the lineouts favouring the Lions by 11-7, the penalties 7 apiece, but the second phase possession again going very much the Lions' way by 16-8 in the rucks and mauls, and the Australians have made 9 errors to the Lions' 10, and the scrum feeds also going to the Lions by 4-3, and the Lions have also taken 2 tight heads. So that scrum, a bit of a worry for the Australians in the first half, but Nick Farr-Jones, as you can hear, is really laying down the law now to his side. So let's have a look at that try by Ian Williams, which came at a desperate time as far as Australia was concerned, Gary Pearce.
Certainly was. Here we can see it was one of the rehearsed moves, but it really did work. All that diversion to get those lines to move across field was worked extremely well.
Well, we didn't quite see that try, but I can assure you Ian Williams got there to score a very vital one for Australia. But really, fellas, these Australian forwards are going to have to play with the same fervour as the Homeric Warriors on the plains of Troy, Gary Pearce.
It certainly is. The Lions have controlled that entire half, with the exception of 30 seconds. So this time they're going to have to get out there and control for the rest of the second half and not let the Lions in the game.
Chris, you predicted Australia would come back, and they did just before half-time.
Good, and I think that was probably because they had the initial platform, that breakdown that allowed Australia, they've won their own ball that they've taken in, Gary, and that's enabled that continuity.
It certainly has been. If you have a look at the way the Lions so far on tour have played the game in front of the advantage line, but this aggressive tackling by Australia has forced them to be able to play their game behind the advantage line, and they don't like it.
Can I just throw one question, Chris? McBain is warming up for Australia, so Lawton would appear to be injured.
Yeah, that's a shame. We just saw it beforehand. We'll wait and see. I don't think it'll make a difference. There may be even a little plus.
And also Mark Harthill out there taking off his tracksuit. So this test match appears in Australia's keeping at the moment, but a couple of disruptions in the scrum could be very critical. Lawton staying on for the time being, but he appears to be feeling his groin area, and I don't think he's going to be able to keep going.
Well, how many games in the first 10 minutes of the second half really dictates what happens to the rest of the game. It all depends.
Steve Cutler's also down, Gary Pearce. Is that Steve Cutler down there?
No, it isn't Steve Cutler. It's
Cameron Lillycrap.
Cameron Lillycrap.
So 2 front rowers in trouble, and we could see a double change here with McBain and Harthill coming on, and suddenly the whole scrum situation could be reversed.
Yes, it does. Not a bad ploy, though. Unfortunate for Australia to that change. It doesn't happen. It only happens through injury. It's not like our Feral Friends game where they replace people at whim or as they run out of puff. This is purely because of injury. Mark Harthill smarting from being left out of the team, as was Mark McBain. Now's their chance. Let's see how they go.
Mark Harthill on for his 11th test match. Half of his tests have been against the New Zealand All Blacks. And Mark McBain, so many times on the reserves bench for Australia, 33 in fact, is on for his 6th international. So Australia with 2 converted tries, a field goal by Liner as well. For the Lions, Hastings a penalty and a field goal by Chalmers. 9-point advantage. Australia with 2 replacements at half-time though, both in the front row.
This first point of impact is very important in this second half. The Lions, after their half-time break, will be saying, let's really get in and drive it and get over that advantage line. Australia will be looking to pick the pace of the game up again.
And as well as a change in the front row, a change in the thrower to the scrum, into the line-out. But no effect. They're old friends.
And points. Looking at the statistics of the first half, the line-outs favouring the Lions by 11-7. The penalties 7 apiece, but the second phase possession again going very much the Lions' way by 16-8 in the rucks and mauls, and the Australians have made 9 errors to the Lions' 10, and the scrum feeds also going to the Lions by 4-3, and the Lions have also taken 2 tight heads. So that scrum, a bit of a worry for the Australians in the first half, but Nick Farr-Jones, as you can hear, is really laying down the law now to his side. So let's have a look at that try by Ian Williams, which came at a desperate time as far as Australia was concerned, Gary Pearce.
Certainly was. Here we can see it was one of the rehearsed moves, but it really did work. All that diversion to get those lines to move across field was worked extremely well.
Well, we didn't quite see that try, but I can assure you Ian Williams got there to score a very vital one for Australia. But really, fellas, these Australian forwards are going to have to play with the same fervour as the Homeric Warriors on the plains of Troy, Gary Pearce.
It certainly is. The Lions have controlled that entire half, with the exception of 30 seconds. So this time they're going to have to get out there and control for the rest of the second half and not let the Lions in the game.
Chris, you predicted Australia would come back, and they did just before half-time.
Good, and I think that was probably my heart more than the head speaking. There is no urgency in the Australian pack particularly. There needs to be that urgency. Rucks and mauls, they're down second phase play, down 2-1. It's not good enough. Jeff Miller is not really being allowed to play in the game, and they need that to get into it. They need to come out on the front foot. It's difficult, but they can do it.
Yes, well, I suppose if you go back to Ballymore, and it was in the last 5 minutes of play where the Lions scored 2 tries. If their forwards are able to maintain the sort of pressure that they did in the first half, well, that's going to be the real danger period for Australia if the scores are close. Australia really has to put its stamp on this game, as they've done just before half-time. But the $60 question is now, can they go on with it? the Lions pack has been quite superb in the first half. And the backs have also showed a desire to try and straighten things up too. So the second half of the Mitre 10 third international between Australia and the British Lions, and Hastings, who had such a strong first half, again proving a colossus at the back for his side, back up to halfway.
Big contrast in these kickoffs. The Lions always wanting to regain the possession back with a short kick. Australia preferring to put it down into the 22 and try and get throw in on the line out.
That was Tyneman. Well picked up by one of the Australian front rowers. And Australia took it in. The Lions come out with it. Guscott with that clever left foot jab. He wants the touchline, and it hit the corner post. It hit the corner post. And the referee says we'll have a 22.
And quite rightly so. It's one of those anomalies played in the game. Great kick. Left footer along the ground, and it was only very, very close. Critical decision, that one there by the referee. If he'd have played the touchline, it was wrong, and Australia were in trouble.
Well, that's a better kick by Lino, and Crowley does well to set up things here. Campese. His kick almost finding snow and taking play to within 10 metres of the halfway line. So that was better organisation by the Australians at the kick-off. They've worked very hard on that area during the week.
Well, I think it's just this incredible enthusiasm, the Lions wanting to try and get up there and get hold of the ball. It's a long time since I've seen a team so aggressive to get hold of the ball at the kick-off or 22.
Ackford again doing well. Guscott running straight, but not very decisively. Miller the tackler. Australia drive in. But there's good mauling there. And Miller has it for Australia. Out it comes. Martin. Big Martin tries to get through. It was Bill Campbell. And now Far Jones looking for the touchline. Can he get it? Well, it was that little charge there by Bill Campbell which really set it up for Far Jones, who reacted instinctively.
You see here, the reason they came from that play was that Miller was able to get to breakdown, able to get hold of a bit of ball, but people started to play in depth, and Far Jones took that ball in depth and was able to look for touch and get it right down only 5 metres out.
So quite a dramatic start to this second term, inspired by the Australian skipper and his vice-captain. Timing at the back to Far Jones, Liner and Walker. Back to Liner, the loop, here's danger, Martin, well caught around the ankles. Player diving in at the breakdown, that has to be a penalty. Mike Teague making no attempt to stay on his feet.
Well, he hesitated for a moment, but the decision was the right one. Mr. Okay, you must be bound when the ball goes to ground between two players. Here it's set up, two players together, the ball between them. Teague there must bind, can't play the ball on the ground. Twice now he's been picked up.
Yes, it was almost a professional foul there by Teague. No attempt to stay on his feet. And Liner could blow this one over. And this would put Australia in front for the first time in this international. Michael Liner makes no mistake. The crowd is happy. It's taken Australia 43 minutes to hit the front. But it certainly came at the right time in that championship period, just before and after half-time.
Cutting blow to the Lions. They've had all the play, and now they find themselves 3 points behind. They're a bit restricted with the style of play that they can choose to bridge that gap. They've committed themselves to the forward game and to the kicking game, and maybe we should suggest to them that they do what they stumbled upon at Ballymore near the end of the game and run it out wide.
Cutler goes high and stands his ground. Lions players packing around on the wrong side. Cutler goes to ground.
Well, beautiful take there by Steve Cutler.
So Tim Gavin warming up here, and Steve Cutler had problems with his back. And it looks as though Bill Campbell may also have troubled his hamstring. Andrew now hanging up in the breeze. Martin didn't take it cleanly, but it was mauled away by one of his teammates. So Tim Gavin looks as though he's going to get on the pitch here. The referee correctly giving the scrum feed to the Lions. That ruck was stationary. Can the Lions hit back here? Australia trying to wheel it round past the 90. Jones, Andrew looking for the equaliser. Goulet almost charging down, but he put the pressure on. That was important. And now Campese and Evans. Oh, this is terrible stuff. It's a try. Well, what a mortal blow for the Australians. The less said about that, the better. David Campese knows he's made a horrible mistake here, and the Lions have hit the lead.
Well, the only way the Lions were going to get back in this match was by some Australian mistakes, and this is the classic shocker. David Campese had to dot that ball down. He was out on his own. He started the run. Greg Martin went in support without really wanting the ball, lost it ahead, and the unthinkable has happened. Look at this. You don't do this on your own line. You don't wear a green and gold jersey to pull out that sort of Mickey Mouse rugby.
So the crowd really stunned here by that horrible blunder. And Hastings, can he hammer in the nail? No. So 1 point the difference. The Lions by 13 to 12. And that was the score we had inside the last 5 minutes of the Ballymore Test match. Well, it certainly was a rush of blood by Campese. Can the Australians recover from that? Fortunately, they're only 1 point down. But the Lions were just starting to flag as the Australians were building confidence. Campese, Chris Sandy has got to forget all about that, as has the Australian team, and start looking ahead.
Well, I think there's times in close rugby matches that you must play the percentage game of rugby, and today certainly was one of those games where percentage was required. We're not 10 points in front, we're struggling, and they were lucky to be in front of the Lions, and unfortunately, as has happened before, David Campese, it's either sublime or ridiculous, and to the great disappointment of his teammates, that time the choice was ridiculous.
But again, it shows your kicks are only as good as your chases, and it was really that pressure that was really put on Campese, not being able to run it out from there. That really was by only one man.
Yes, the thing with Campese, he normally does beat the first man himself, and I don't think there's any point in rubbing it in, but Evans had gone across to Martin. He'd gone for the dummy, and Campese really had no one in front. But it's one of those things that happens. I suppose it happens to every footballer, and David Campese really feeling it at the moment, but he's got to put it out of his mind.
He's a great champion, and he's got the rest of this half really to peg it back, and we know he's got the talents to do it.
Robert Jones with the scrum on the 10-metre line, Australian territory. Evans follows. Martin coming up for the ball outside the 22. He lost a head. Richards couldn't handle. And the referee says both ways. So the Lions persisting with that kick close to the touchline, putting pressure on Australia. It's been a very handy tactic. Again, a steady build-up here by the Scarlet Reds. Andrew cut out to Hastings. Here comes Gavin. Almost through the first line. Richards more strongly. Australia arrived just a little faster that time, but the Lions have it in control. This is Teague. Teague back to Calder. The Lions clear it through Teague again. He runs at the Australians. Far Jones is caught in there. The Lions have numbers in the backs, but Australia's cover is good. Underwood now. And Campese taking it into touch. And deliberately knocking it into touch, says the referee, against David Campese. Deliberately knocking into touch, but he held onto the ball, Monsieur Uke. That's what he's telling the referee. How could he have knocked it into touch if he maintained possession?
That's exactly right. He did very well to get across in cover. His natural speed got him there. It was a great kick, and the try was on. Williams was committed. He was turned round, and there Campese still with the ball in his hand. Crook decision.
The referee's made a bad blunder. Wade Dooley. Good set up for Jones. Andrew lost a head. Advantage here for Australia. One point the difference. Drama charged international between Australia and the Lions.
Well, we've seen some bad decisions by the referee, both in the second test. Not bad in his attitude to the game, but just clearly wrong. A couple in the first test, and that one there was again an indication of a clearly wrong decision. Not one that was made in the heat of the moment or pressured. It wasn't the right decision and could well affect the result of the game.
Liner now onto his left foot. Not finding touch. Williams through on Hastings. Hastings follows. Australia falling down in that touch area. This is Far Jones. And he's reaped it straight down the centre of the field. Australia want the chasers here. Underwood in broken play. Very dangerous. Loose pass by Underwood. Guscott now. And he settles well. Fortuitous bounce. Australia back on their heels.
He deserved that one. His last went badly for him, and that one, beautiful kick, reminiscent of Andrew Slack's kicking in general play. When it all appeared under pressure, he was able to lift the ball up the top and get his side back onto the front foot.
Tommy Lawton having trouble here, hearing the signals. Cacophony from the crowd. 12 metres out from the goal line. Well done, Cutler. And also Greg Martin. That's a mighty touch finder. 35 metres out. And, well, we've got the Lion and the Wallaby out there, but the South Sydney Rabbits also have the football stadium as their home ground.
I think it's the referee.
I know Lion is a magician, but I didn't think he was that good. More sweeps. Jones. And that one going out on the full. Well, the first mistake from the kicking boot of Jones. And the crowd really roaring themselves hoarse as this intruder causes plenty of entertainment here. But the accent is on the football. Well, we've seen dogs, but never lapin, as Monsieur Ourquet would say.
Well, it'd be interesting trying to describe to him what's on the field. Imagine saying to the referee, there's a rabbit on the field.
Again, the quick line out. This is Far Jones. Campese supporting Liner. Liner now wants the bounce. But that one's going just a little too deep. And this rabbit is having an absolute ball. I wish someone would give him a carrot.
This will do wonders for Australian tourism. I think there's kangaroos going down George Street, but rabbits on rugby fields, I think it'll be covered across the world.
Andrew. Kick going. About 15 metres ahead. Far Jones is there and Calder! Finley Calder with a breakout. Hastings went the other way. Calder stands his ground. Can the Lions score their try here? 18 metres out. Andrew. Guscott. Evans barreled by Campese. Australian defence is good. Miller comes in. Desperate gallantry from him. Now it's Harthill for Australia. Great setup by the Australians, and Liner sending the ball right downfield and back up towards halfway. Good recovery there by the Australians.
Well, the Lions have really thrown it at us there. The ball came across as they powered in. You can see the ball's gone up. Nick Farr-Jones tries to get it, but Calder always on the ball. Great captaincy as he goes through here. But look at the shoulder he puts into Martin as he drives over the top of him. Here he goes, looking for support, teeing the back row there again as they power over, and look at the way they climb in here, cleaning Australia out. The ball goes wide. All Lions backs looking to back up here. You can see Underwood around there trying to get hold of it, as he does. But Australia react to it very fast.
Fullback Greg Martin hurt his shoulder in that tackle. He's still in the hands of the Australian trainer. 5 metres from halfway. They go high. And a knock on there by the Lions. And Australia with a scrum feed. Now, when it's a knock-on in the line-out, the scrum should be 15 metres in. That one's only about 7. Boyd Walker finds a hole. Pass knocked down. And offside play here by the Lions. The referee played the advantage. Well, Australia 1 point down. It really is nail-biting stuff. And they still haven't caught that little creature. Liner's kick. Delightful punt kick. Just inside the 22.
This is where we'll be calling on the experience of Nick Farr-Jones, Cutler and Liner to pick the pace of the Australian attack up. But first they must consolidate this play, be hungry to get hold of this Lions throw-in.
The most difficult thing here will be to get the Lions ball from them in the line-out. Ackford at the front with Richards sweeping.
And it was Ackford and Richards in concert. Jones. And he gains only 5 or 6 metres. But it's almost at the moment as though that mistake has really galvanised the Australians. They've really thrown themselves into the fray. They're very hungry now. And they try their move with 3 joining the line out. The referee is knocked out of the way by Finley Calder. And the free kick has been given against the Lions. It worked in the first test, but not here.
Well, it brings a wry smile, I think, to the face of Ian McGeechan, who always questioned whether that move was in the spirit of the game after the first test.
I know the Australians met with the referee yesterday and questioned him on law interpretations. One would have assumed that was one of their questions, but apparently not. Cutler to Harthill. Australians getting some good line-out ball. Lost ahead by Maguire. They're putting themselves under pressure. Here goes Dooley. The Lions pack on a roll here. Young supports. 24 metres out. Andrew. And it's Evans. And the mark goes to Martin, but the referee has spotted some offside play by the Australians. And Gavin Hastings comes up for what could prove to be another mortal blow for the Australians.
A great forward surge by the Lions pack. Have really taken control at this point of time. Just working the ball wide off the ruck, not wanting to take it too far, smuggling it back to a player and really making sure that the Australian forwards have to continually adjust backwards. And when they do, they bring the mistakes.
Rucks and Mauls 24-14 in favour of the Lions. And the lineouts 16-11. So the Lions enjoying an advantage at the set piece and also in the loose. Very mobile, committed pack of forwards. Hastings right in the sun here. This to send the Lions out to a 4-point lead. And there's no mistake with that one. Bisecting the uprights. And things getting very difficult now for this Australian side as the Lions really gee themselves on.
You can see that natural enthusiasm and encouragement. Gavin Hastings pumped up by the successful kick, slapping his teammates on the back saying, come on, give me that supreme effort.
Australia must look to contest this ball. All their kicks have been long ones. They must look to get it back.
They go for the short one. Campbell goes high, so does Cutler. But the Lions set it up well. Evans coming through now on Martin. Martin stands his ground. Calder, the tackler, assisted by Evans. And again, that high ball from Robert Jones proving successful. The referee has spotted another infringement on the ground by the Australians. Not allowing fair release, it would seem. And Hastings can send them 3 points further ahead.
Well, it was pretty ordinary play by the Australian players. Martin had to take that ball in his own. And by the time he was able to get it into his arms properly, there were 4 Lions players around him, not 1 Australian player. It is a support game. They can't allow players to stand out on their own and try and win it themselves.
Well, we're now into the final quarter of this deciding third test. Gavin Hastings with 4 successful penalty goals from 5 attempts. A very soft try to Ian Evans. And Australia struggling. $16 points to 12. Gavin Hastings kicked 6 penalty goals in his test debut against France in 1986 to equal the world record. Will this be number 5? He's been striking them beautifully, and he's done it again. The Lions out to a 7-point lead, and the writing on the wall for the Australian team.
19-12, the same score in the final minutes of the second test. Now it's up to Australia. The Lions were able to do it in Brisbane. There's 20 minutes to go. It needs a lift.
Ball just going the 10 metres. Now it's Lloyd Walker. Walker, good pass here. Maguire. The Australians coming in. The Lions trying to get to that loose ball quickly, and I think they might have spoiled. They have. Teague back to Jones. And Andrew up the touchline, making no mistake.
Well, that's the story. Australia unable to have continuity to play. They've been caught one out. They've been losing the ball when they've gone into the ruck and ball themselves. And that's mainly because of the aggression and mobility of this Lions back row. On the other hand, when the Lions have gone in, they've kept their feet. Australia has not been able to put them on the ground and force the ball to run loose.
Campbell does well. Now it's Walker, Maguire and Martin and Williams outside. Williams and Evans, good tackle by his opposite number. Intercept, Hastings. Liners back there for Australia. Hastings closes. And Liner saves the day. Finding touch outside the 22. Well, some very tired Australian forwards at the moment. The heat really coming on.
What a classic game Gavin Hastings is having. Great anticipation, really setting his team alight, that surge down the line. Tremendous pressure.
Well, the Lions showed in the second test that composure was one of their strong points. It's needed from the Australians now. Crowley puts his head down, and Australia surely will come up with this ball. And the Lions players were in front of the offside line and making no effort to retire, and also the referee says they pulled it down.
But Gordon, very tentative blocking by the Australian team. The ball came into there. That wasn't really a pressure situation, but Australia allowed the Lions to get around in there and tie that ball up.
Indication, I think, of fatigue. Just 16.5 minutes remaining. Now it's Williams again. Williams still going, back to Campese. Maguire. Australia desperately wanting the ball back, but Lions players on the ground there making no effort to get to their feet. Andrew. Bit of space here, Goulet across. And Gavin Hastings can do no wrong this afternoon. This is Campese. And nothing fancy from Campese as he sends it back to within 10 of halfway. So still 16 minutes remaining.
I think it's Scott Hastings. No, it's Gus Scott, I think, on the ground, injured in that ruck, but it's inspired stuff from the Lions at the moment. Gavin Hastings, every time he touches the ball, he does something positive, but it's been that committed support play, as Gary Pearce was talking about, smashing in after the initial defensive work has been done. It's allowed them to maintain possession.
Well, that one wasn't straight by any stretch, but the referee thought so. 5 metres into Australia's territory, and this rubber kick really has put Australia under pressure. This is Martin. No angle. And good pressure from Mike Teague up there. And it's only 15 metres out. The Australians very slow to get back here.
Martin not confident there to be able to kick onto his right foot. Went back to his natural left foot, leaving very little angle to get the ball out.
The Australians really playing on adrenaline at the moment, but the surge really coming now from the Lions. They're ahead by 7 points, 19-12. Ackford at the front. Richards appeared to lose that ball forward.
Australia really getting blotted out of these lineouts. If you can't win your share of the first phase ball, that'll be in that scrum or that most important lineout. It's very hard to play a second phase game.
Well, the referee this time pulls it in 15 metres for the scrum after the ball had been tapped, which effectively ended the lineout. Michael Liner not finding touch. Again, a bit of pressure from Teague, and now Gavin Hastings with a long-range field goal. David Campese. It's desperation for this Australian side, but Campese, obviously rattled by his mistake, is opting for the safety of his right boot, and very successfully.
And as he displayed, he does have a very useful kick. Crunch time for Australia. This is when they've got to put some points on the board.
One try apiece. Evans for the Lions, Hastings 5 penalty goals. Williams for Australia, Liner a conversion and 2 penalties. The Lions having 65% of the territory in the third quarter of the game. Harthill for Australia. Walker, back to Campese, back to Miller. Far Jones now. Australia does have an overlap. This is Martin. Again, desperate defence. Gus got that time. Goulet comes away. He got there quickly. Good set up here from the Australians. It's Liner again, taking on Andrew. Australia starting to find a few holes, but they have to maintain continuity. Far Jones to Walker. Walker kicking now for Campese. It's a race for the line. Underwood there first. Oh, that was a pretty dangerous pass. Hastings in bother, and it's going to be a 5-metre scrum.
Superb pressure there by the Australian backs as they came up on that kick. You can see the tension of the game really being shown between two very good sportsmen in Hastings and Campese. The tension's there.
Well, without the front rower, David Soul, who's down in centre field, this scrum can't go on. And we saw this scenario posed last week at Ballymore, that if David Young had been sent off the field, the referee may well have had to call the game off, because unless they can pack the scrum, it doesn't continue. And if the other players had refused to move into the front row and there had not been the suitable replacement from within the ranks, it was all over.
Calder going in to just tell his pack, let's give it one big shove here and see if we can spoil the Australian ball, just as we did in the first half. But if Australia's going to win this game, they have to score here. Another very vital scrum. Concentration looks good from the Australians. Now it's Liner. Campese tackled and lost a head. Great tackle there by Scott Hastings. And the referee pulling it back, I think, for the scrum. Playing the advantage. Jones hasn't found touch. Martin practiced his field goals, but now the whistle goes.
We can see here the ball's come across here and Campese just goes forward. Look at the mobility of this big man Richards. He's got there fast, and he's turned around a defensive situation into an attacking by driving forward.
19 points to 12. Lions pack, budged a few centimetres only, and Gavin Hastings, that tower of strength, finds the touch, 25 metres out.
Australia's picked up a sniff of success here. They've really picked up the pace of the game. Their second phase game's becoming better. They're more committed. We saw for the last two scrums, they were able to get hold of it and drive the ball forward.
Critical line out. This possession must be won. They've struggled throughout the game, but from here on in, they've got to win everything, Australia, to win the game. I don't think they can do it. The Lions are pressuring them at every opportunity.
Well, bad pass from Liner to Maguire put Far Jones under pressure, and the composure's just not there at the moment. And the referee this time has spotted a Lions player infringing. So there's 10.5 minutes to go, and this is a vital one for Liner, because if successful, Australia then is within a converted try of winning.
Full marks to this Lions defensive back line. The Bob Dwyer, or the textbook Australian way of backs playing, is to stand shallow, stand close together and move the ball around. Australia's attempted that today, but the Lions have been disrupting that by getting up there and knocking them down. That style of game requires very, very quick hands, and the man who's making the incision into that back line needs to be moving fast. Australia yet to get that part of the game right.
So Australia will still be alive if Liner can successfully kick this penalty. And the pressure of the whole world on Liner with this one. Crowd's happy. 4 points of difference. Australia can still do it, and they're being urged on by this capacity crowd of 40,000. 19 points to 15. We're set for a pulsating finish. Converted try would do it for Australia. It's been a titanic struggle. Australia has done it against the odds.
You see the true breeding in this Lions pack here, and see how aggressive they go after this ball.
Just under 9 minutes remaining. Richards got there, so did Moore, and he lost it. And Moore puts his hands over his head. And there the reserves and also the dirt trackers, Donald's Donuts as they're known. Donald Linehan, the midweek captain. Liner now to Campbell. They're coming in depth. This is Martin straight through. T caught him. Australia look good here. Campese on the left. Straight across field. Chance Australia. Can he get it out? Now it's Walker. Walker to Martin. Time and loops. Great surge here from Australia. Hastings, though, with no pressure, gets the mark, and he'll send play back upfield. Well, the Australians really starting to throw down the gauntlet. 8 minutes to go.
Well, for mine, the play was on the far side of the field when Campese stuttered and brought it back this side. They were stretched, the Lions, and should have been stretched even further.
Australia must attempt to keep the ball in the hand. Get each player to try and drive a bit harder and drive himself that bit more to get to the support play, to put himself in a better position. While the Lions haven't got the ball, they can't control the match. They can't slow the pace up.
7.5 minutes to go. Australia with the full complement in the line out. Timeman got it. This is Liner running hard and straight. Australian forward support well. Orkay nearly bowled over. Where's the ball? Here it is. Lions player offside. Brian Moore offside. Australia storming home in this game.
Mike Teague again the boogeyman. He's played so well driving the ball up, but each time the ball has come to ground and the Lions have been going backwards, he's fouled. Watch it there, number 6. You saw it. So did the referee.
Referee Orkay did well to see that one because he was on the other side of the ruck. But Calder telling David Soul that he should think about going off if he's not 100%, but Soul says, no, I'm going to stay on. Well, what a gripping finish. 6.5 minutes to go. If Liner gets this, there'll be 1 point between the two teams. Liner's kicked 3 penalty goals. Hastings 5. 1 try apiece. And Liner a conversion. Well, I think some of the Australian players won't be able to look at this one. The ones who will follow it must chase hard. Liner strike it well. 1 point the difference, 19-18. What a comeback by this Australian team. Just under 6 minutes remaining. Liner kicks his 4th penalty and takes his tally to 14 points in the game. Well, it's the Australian side who've really come back into this game. Desperate gallantry from them. And the Lions inclined just to sit a bit on their lead, Gary Pearce, now paying the penalty.
Well, the Lions taking their time to get the ball up to the halfway here, trying to tick out those seconds. But still got over 5 minutes to go. They'll be looking for possession. Australia here looking for ball in the hand, continued continuity to play to get down the other end of the field.
Cutler goes high. He's played with a bad back. He went under the high tackle from Richards. A better set up here from the Australians. Far Jones has it. Liner now. Kicking ahead, Richards is there. He's caught by Goulet and Walker. Teague was there. He lost it. Far Jones. Back they go. Overlap here for Liner. Stepping beautifully. Here they go. Cutler at halfback. Tyneman now. It's Ian Williams. And Australia still mount the pressure. 4.5 minutes to go. 1 point the difference. The Lions have it by 19-18.
Well, they say at the Sydney Sports Stadium, the football stadium, the crowd's worth a few points. And I'm sure the Australians on the field will be urging themselves on because they're getting tremendous assistance from this crowd.
The Australians have certainly proved themselves a great side to come back as they have in the second half. But they want the ball. Far Jones now in trouble. Pass was okay. It looked to be forward. Here's Campese. Now it's Maguire. Maguire with Evans in front. Williams is there. Well caught. Scott Hastings lost ahead. The referee didn't see it. The Lions come back now. Jones kicking for Campese. He watched it. Campese chances his arm. Walker's there. Australia trying to move it wide. Now they have numbers. Maguire and Williams. Williams up towards halfway. He's looking for the bounce and he doesn't quite get it. Hastings was outside his 22. 3 minutes and 19 seconds to go. The Lions leading by 19-18. And Australia again down in that danger zone. Well, this is unbearable stuff at the moment. What a finish to this international. The Lions holding on.
Australia's throw in here. Australia looking for possession. Sweeping most importantly, so it's good ball that comes to the Australian backs.
Whichever side loses this game will be shattered. Australia driving in and they're offside. The ball wasn't out. Over anxiousness there from Scott Goulet. And that may well be the one that helps the Lions to see it out. 2.5 minutes to go. Well, the Lions have really got the staggers. It's Australia who've really come back so strongly. But the seconds are ticking away for them. Just over 2 minutes remaining. 19-18.
Australia calling for the full line out to try and keep these Lions forwards in one place.
Referee says play on. Gaps. When they're really very hungry, the Australian pack, they seem to push Dooley backwards. And the referee has spotted a hand in the ruck. That may well be the backbreaker. With 2 minutes to go, Hastings is going to have a shot for goal. And Australia looking for their first ever series win against the Lions. Well, it looks as though their chance may all be but over. One and a half minutes to go.
Well, 15 Australians better be on the starting blocks if this particular goal doesn't go over, because you'll see one of the greatest attacking moves if they can take it from here. But the Lions doing all the work, doing all the right work there. They won the critical line out in the game. That was that last one. And we're able to get a penalty from that because Australia are just too eager to get hold of the ball.
Very similar finish to the series in '84 too. When Australia won the first test, they had the second test won against the All Blacks. And then the Lions with a 1 point advantage, just as New Zealand did in that third test to win it 25-24. This could win it for the Lions. He hasn't got the distance. There's 50 seconds remaining and it's Campese. He's running. Good line for the Australians. They've really got to have a go here. Martin lost ahead. 40 seconds remaining. So, the referee plays advantage. Here they go. Jones kicks deep. And Campese's over his goal line. And his kick finding touch only 5 metres out. Well, he only really had to touch the ball down there for the 22 dropout. And this should be the last line out, the last set piece of the game. The crowd's starting to leave because the Lions have done it. They've thwarted Australia at the death. Brian Moore takes his time. There's just 6 or 7 seconds to go. Australia has to win the line out and go for it. Far Jones, Walker, Williams almost through. Now it's Campese. Australia must keep the ball alive. The Lions will try and kill it. They've done that. There's no sign of it coming out. I think the match is all over. The referee having a look at his clock. We'll have the scrum, please. Whistles from supporters. Scrum feed for the Lions. Time is up on the clock. Jones kicks long and high. Campese underneath, Evans there. Now it's Martin again. Desperately trying to keep it alive. The pass is okay to Williams. Here they go again. Line is there. And it could be well a try to Underwood. He's held up. Amazing scenes here in the closing stages. That's it. The Lions have won the series by 19 points to 18. Unbridled joy for them. Mike Teague gets the match ball, fittingly too, and so too Finlay Calder. The Australians gave it their all, but that mortal blow, which saw the Lions score that try after half-time, in the end proved too much for them. The Lions winning by 19 points to 18. They don't come any more exciting, and that really is a heartbreaker for the Australians. But Gary Pearce, they really did show tremendous character.
Well, they certainly have. It's been a great test series. The Lions went into the first test really as favourites. Australia came out and really did go at them and played that traditional open style of game. But the Lions have come back, and they've come back with a vengeance in the second and this last test. They're a great side. They've got great skills. Their ability to be able to control play up front and manipulate the players around the field. They are a thinking team.
And you saw Clive Rollins there, the Lions manager, Top Cat as he's known, hugging his players. That certainly makes up for some of the disappointments for him. He was with the Welsh side in 1978 when they lost in that third and deciding test match. But full marks to the Lions. They hung on. But gee, you couldn't take anything away from either side.
Oh, that's right. But the first half, the Lions, as they did in Brisbane, they really did control the game, and it was always hard for Australia to come back into the game. Australia nearly pulled it off by just getting back to basics, and that was controlling the ball in the hand and moving it wide, getting continuity of second phase play. But then we were let down again in the line-out, and the scrum was always pressure on us, so Australia didn't really get to advantage line from those set pieces, which made it very hard.
Well, as you can see, there are plenty of happy supporters here. It's the ultimate accolade, the pinnacle to play for the Lions if you're a member of one of the 4 home unions. And these players have really done it for the Northern Hemisphere this afternoon. Finlay Calder now leading his players around the field. It's a victory lap of honour, almost a solo one until his players respond. And this really is a moment to savour for these 15 players.
Finlay Calder has had a tremendous tour as a captain. His mobility in open play has been fantastic. He's had the mobility of second phase has been very much on his shoulders. He's picked another 2 players in Richards and Teague, who are very much powerful players close to the ruck and maul. So it's been really on his shoulders to get out and win second phase play, and he's done a great job.
So Chris Handy now is going to speak to a couple of the prop forwards, I think, David Soul and David Young, who did such a grand job for their side in the series. Both were certainly under injury clouds in that second half.
Well, the engine room of the Lions pack, David Young and David Soul. To win today, you had to do it up front. You completed your mission. What's it feel like?
Nothing. What's about it?
There's a lot of pressure on at the start of the tour. It was a difficult tour. You came with a mission. David Young, it must be pleasing for you to come back to Australia and win at the Sydney Football Stadium.
That's right, yeah. I missed out in the World Cup playing against Australia, so obviously it was nice to get back here on the winning spree.
The feeling for next week's game, I suppose it's a bit hard to clear this one out, but the Anzacs game, that'll be a big moment as well. You're looking forward to that?
Oh yes, it's something to look forward to, you know. They don't play too often, the Anzacs, so it'll be nice to play against them. It's a great experience.
The problem with the paper talk before the game, were you able to put that out of your mind and just get on with the rugby today?
Well, I had to really, didn't I? You know, I tend not to read papers so often.
You'd be obviously pretty pleased to go back home with the series win behind you rather than other.
Well, obviously, you know, we come out here to win, and there was no other sort of result we were looking for, really, but a win.
Congratulations, boys. We'll see you at Ballymore.
Thanks very much.
So Finlay Calder there now with Chris Handy, and let's quickly look at the 2 tries scored in the game. But before we do, we're going to go back down to Finlay Calder.
And I was worried that Australia would have just too good for us, but you know, we came out and stuck to our game plan. And David Campese was worked under pressure again. We said we'd work him, and he did us the right thing by trying to run out of his own line. And Yaim got up for the score. It was a good score. But I felt overall it was a pretty even match, and I think the score reflected pretty just how even it was at 19-18. You can't ask for a closer match than that. And it's full credit to Australia this time for coming back at us. But I was glad when Rennie were capable of the final whistle.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Good on you.
Cheers, Nick.
Yes, well, it certainly was a great day for the Lions, and I think a draw probably would have been a fitting tribute to the effort of the Australian side, who came back so well. 1 try apiece, line of 4 penalty goals, and also 1 conversion, and Gavin Hastings kicked 5 penalty goals. So